Hi everybody, today we are going to be talking about lesson 6-2, one-step addition equations. So a couple of words that we will be using today is inverse operation. So inverse kind of means the opposite. When we deal with subtraction, the inverse would then be addition. Same with multiplication and division. Those are also inverse operations. We will also deal with the subtraction property of equality. The biggest ones that we'll work on today are the subtraction and addition, because we are talking about addition equations. So let's start by writing some addition equations. We can write equations to represent many real-world problems. The biggest things that we need to remember to do are only pull out the important words that are given in our word problem. We're going to define a variable, so choose a letter and figure out what it represents, and then we will translate those words and that variable into an algebraic equation. An example of this would be right here. In a recent Summer Olympics, the United States won 23 more medals in swimming than Australia. The United States won a total of 33 swimming medals. So we'll write an addition equation that can be used to find the number of medals won by Australia. Now, I've underlined what's important in this statement here. And we need to define what the variable is. Well, what are we being asked to find? We're being asked to find the number of medals won by Australia. So we should use the variable m to represent the number of medals Australia has won. We know that the United States won 23 more medals. More means addition. So we're going to take m plus 23 to equal 33. So that would be how we would write this equation. Let's move on to an example. Together, this is on page 342, by the way. Together, Ruben and Tariq downloaded 245.5 megabytes of music. Ruben downloaded 132 megabytes of that total. So first thing we need to do is pull out what's important. Well, we know Ruben and Tariq downloaded a total of 245.5 megabytes of music. Of this total, Ruben downloaded 132 megabytes. So those are important facts. We need to include all the numbers. Then we need to figure out how much Tariq downloaded. That is going to be what we will solve for. So we're going to use m to represent the music. Okay. So we'll do m plus how much did Ruben download? 132 to get a total of 245.5. So that would be the equation we would write for this situation, because we are adding both Tariq's and Ruben's totals to get what they had combined. Let's try our check. Together, Zacharias and Paz have $756.80. So we know that this is going to be the total. That'll be on the equal side. If Zacharias has $489.50, how much does Paz have? So we know that Zacharias has this amount, but we do not know how much money Paz has. So we're going to choose a variable for the situation. Let's do D for dollars. So that would be our equation we would write for this situation. Because together, Zacharias and Paz have this much money, so we need to add their totals together to find that total. All right, let's go ahead and talk about solving. We're going to turn to page 344 in your workbooks. Talk about solving addition equations. So we talked about using substitution and using guess, check, and revise as different methods to solve equations. Well, let's talk about ways that this is a little more specific. We want to think about both sides of the equal sign as like a balance scale. We need this to equal that. Well, if this side of the scale has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay, and we have over here x plus 4, what does x need to equal? Well, here's 4 and here's 4, so I can cross that out. What would be left behind? We'd have x equals 3. Okay? Because what I do is I simply subtract. I can subtract all of the whole numbers that we see here, which is 4. I can then subtract the same amount from the other side to even it out. Then we have an even scale. X would equal 3. So addition equations are using inverse operations of substitution to solve. Okay, let's try example 2. If 8 equals x plus 3, what does x equal? So let's take a look. In my model, x plus 3, what I can do is I can get rid of those 3 and have x left over. But if I take away 3 from this side, I have to take away 3 from this side. So now I would be left with 5. So in this case, x equals 5. The other way to do this is just to use subtraction property of equality. What that means is I'm going to subtract the constant from the equation on this side, wherever the variable is. But if I subtract it from this side, I have to subtract it from this side. X plus 3 minus 3 would just leave an x, but I have to subtract over here. 8 minus 3 would then be 5. We could also use a bar diagram. We know that total, this is 8, and we have 3 over here, so what would x be? Well, that would mean x would have to be 5. We can check our solution by putting 5 into the equation. Replace x with 5. Does this work? Yes. Always remember to check your equations before submitting your answers. So let's go ahead and try this problem here. You can use any of the models or methods that you wish. You can make a model, you can make a bar diagram, or you can just use a subtraction property. I tend to use a subtraction property because it is quicker, but it's up to you what you choose to do. So remember, whatever we do to one side, we need to do to the other side. When I'm subtracting on the side with the x, that simply cancels it out, and all I would be left with would be x. So I'm going to do over here 570 minus 33. Okay, so go ahead and solve for x. You can pause here and then check your answer. So your answer here, once you've solved it, should be 537. So our solution would be x equals 537. All right, moving on. Let's do the same thing here. Once again, we're given a problem and we need to solve for m. Now you can use the substitution equation or property to solve here. All we have to do is subtract the constant from the side that has our variable. But if I subtract over on this side, I have to do the same thing over on this side. So 3 3/4, okay, subtracted. We're just being left with m. 7 1/2, right? I need to change that to a common denominator, so 7 2/4, and then I can subtract. We would get 3 3/4 as our solution to this equation here. Now remember what I said, you can use a calculator, you can change this back to, you can change this to a decimal if you wish, that's fine, but then I would like your answer back in fraction form. Okay, let's try this one. So k plus 5/8 equals 2 1/4. Obviously we have unequal denominators, so we'll have to change those into common denominators. K plus 5/8 equals 2 1/4. Well, let's change this. How do I get fourths up to eighths? Well, I would be multiplying by 2, so this would be 2 2/8. We can change this to an improper fraction to make our lives even more simple. 2 times 8 is 16 plus 2 is 18/8. Now, what I'm going to do here is subtract 5/8 from both sides. So if I subtract 5/8 over here, I'd just be left with K. If I subtract 5/8 from 18/8, 18 minus 5 would be 13/8, and that would give us our answer here. Now we can finish by simplifying this. 8 goes into 13 one time, and we would be left with 5/8. So K equals 1 5/8. All right, moving on to our apply problem. An online bookstore is having a sale on mysteries. The table shows the cost of each book format. Abigail has $70 to spend. She bought 2 paperbacks, 1 hardcover, and 1 ebook. Write an addition equation that can be used to determine how much more money Abigail still has to spend. Now, as usual, what I would have you do is email me your answer. I'll help you start with this. So, what you would want to do in this case is start by doing 2 paperbacks, so times 2 here, 1 hardcover times 1 here, and 1 ebook times 1 here. Once you do all of those, you will add them together. Then you would have plus however much money she still wants to spend. So M would equal a total of $70. So that's kind of how you would start your equation at this point. Then it asks you to solve. So go ahead and solve for M. As always, please make sure to email me your answer if you've got it. I'd love to know that you've tried this. All right, that is all for us today. Please make sure you complete your homework on McGraw-Hill and have a great day.